Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh and this is your stimulus check update for the second stimulus package for Wednesday, July 29th. I hope everyone is having a good week so far. In this video, I'll be discussing both the first and second stimulus check, including what Democrats have to say so far about the latest Republican relief package plan. I'll also be discussing when we can expect to receive the next stimulus payment, unemployment, and then I'll be wrapping up this video by answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. But first, if you wouldn't mind real quickly liking this video, giving me a big thumbs up. It really just helps with the YouTube algorithm in terms of pushing this video out to other viewers like you, and hopefully helping other people like you as well. Okay, so the Senate is back in Washington today, and they just have 8 more working days to get this next relief package passed through. That's because after August 7th, they will be going on another month-long recess, and at the moment, there has been no mention made by McConnell whether the Senate plans on pushing back their recess in order to get this relief package passed through. After McConnell released his $1 trillion HEROES Act relief package plan, the Democrats, much like the Republicans did with the HEROES Act, called it dead on arrival. Now, obviously this doesn't mean that all hope is lost. And we all kind of knew that the Democrats wouldn't 100% agree with the Republicans and what they thought should be in the next relief package. At the very least, the HEROES Act should act as a starting point for negotiations for the Democrats. And this is probably what the Republicans should have done with the HEROES Act whenever the House passed the HEROES Act back in May. They could have taken out the things they didn't like in the HEROES Act, maybe included some provisions that they did want to be in the bill, and then negotiate with the Democrats at that point in time. But they decided to kind of kick the can down the road, look at the June jobs report, and now at this point we only have around 8 business days to get this next relief package passed through. Now, Democratic leaders Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer believe there are a lot of shortfalls in this bill. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called the GOP's plan pathetic, and Nancy Pelosi said the plan wasn't serious. Schumer went on to say, quote, "We are somewhat frustrated. We had hoped there would be a bill, and instead in the Senate they put a little pieces here and there and everywhere. It's pretty clear they don't have 51 votes in the Senate for a proposal." Schumer and Pelosi both believe that there needs to be more aid for state and local government, and that there also needs to be something in place to protect renters from eviction. Schumer said not only do they have no rental assistance for people who need help, but they didn't even put a moratorium, so hundreds of thousands of people could be kicked out of their houses next week. They also want more money invested in low-income communities that were hit the hardest by this pandemic. The biggest disagreement, however, is going to come down to unemployment. The Democrats in large part want another extension of the federal unemployment benefits at $600 on a weekly basis. Now, on the other hand, the Republicans opened the negotiations at $200 for the federal unemployment boost for 2 months, followed by 70% of the prior wage replacement starting on October 1st. The Democrats, on one hand, believe that the federal unemployment benefits should be extended at $600 on a weekly basis because they believe that people should not be punished because the pandemic was not their fault and they lost their jobs at no fault of their own. And on the other hand, we have many Republicans that believe that receiving $600 on a weekly basis is simply too much, and it's actually providing a disincentive to return to work. With that said, what do you guys personally think about this? Do you believe that people are on unemployment right now because they are making more on unemployment than what they were at their previous jobs? Or do you believe that people are on unemployment just because there are no jobs to go back to at the moment? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Another hangup for the Democrats is a provision in the bill that would provide $1.75 billion for rebuilding the FBI headquarters, which is located near the Trump International Hotel. Some Democratic leaders believe Trump wants the FBI building rebuilt so it doesn't get torn down and allow a competitor to come in and snatch it up. And quite frankly, it's not only Democrats opposed to this provision. There are also many Senator Republicans opposed to this provision as well. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, for example, said that it made no sense to him, and other Senator Republicans also disagree with it, saying that it made no sense because it had no relations with the virus, which is true. It doesn't have any relations to the virus, therefore it should not be in this bill. Anything that is not related to this virus or this pandemic should not be in this bill. And the Democrats tried doing the same thing in their HEROES Act. This is why I'm not a fan of filling a bill up with multiple pieces of legislation. Both sides try to include non-virus provisions into the bill, hoping that it won't be noticed by the public. It's political garbage. I don't like it at all. These bills should be designed for one purpose and one purpose only, to help the American people and help the American economy. Politicians should not be trying to be sneaky and fit their hidden agendas into these bills. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi also noted they don't have money for food stamps, but they have money for an FBI building just so that they can diminish competition for the president's hotel. Pelosi was also critical over the fact that there's tax credits for expensive dinners, but there's nothing in there for food stamps or nutritional assistance. Pelosi went on to say, "Right now we're at a time when children are food insecure in our country. People are hungry who never thought they'd go to a food bank." This is yet another issue that Schumer and Pelosi have with the HEALS Act, that there is no additional funding for food stamps. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, 26% of Americans report they or a member of their household have gone without meals or relied on charities to obtain groceries. The HEALS Act also doesn't include any funding for hazard pay for essential workers, which is yet another shortfall in the eyes of Pelosi and Schumer. Furthermore, the Democrats would also like to see an increase in the stimulus checks. In the HEROES Act that they passed back in May, they had $1,200 stimulus payments going to all Americans, and even to dependents over the age of 17 that were left out in the CARES Act, they had $1,200 stimulus payments going to those dependents as well. However, in the HEALS Act, even though $1,200 stimulus payments would be going out to Americans, only $500 would be going out to dependents over the age of 17, which I have to say is actually a surprise that they included anything for dependents over the age of 17, because they were left out in the first act. And I think that a lot of us speculated that the Republicans were going to try to keep the spending down in this next relief package, so I didn't think there was going to be any chance for dependents over the age of 17 to receive anything, but it looks like they're going to receive at least $500 in the next relief bill. And with that said, it's entirely possible that dependents over the age of 17 may even end up receiving more than $500, and they may end up receiving the full $1,200 after the Democrats are done negotiating with the Republicans. Meanwhile, White House Economic Advisor Stephen Moore continues to argue in favor of a payroll tax cut. Moore argues that these payroll tax cuts could go to only businesses with fewer than 100 employees, and maybe with employees only earning up to $80,000 on an annual basis. That way you're more so targeting the middle and lower income classes. Moore said that if you set up the payroll tax cuts that way, then Nancy Pelosi would have to be on board with the plan, because Barack Obama did something like that around 10 years ago, and Nancy Pelosi was very happy with the way that he did it. He went on to say that they're not throwing in the towel yet, and that any relief package that does get passed should have a payroll tax cut in it, and he believes that other Republicans will vote no on any bill that doesn't include a payroll tax cut. So in the end, maybe a payroll tax cut does end up in this next relief package, maybe it doesn't, but at this point in time, it seems that even most Senate Republicans aren't on board with a payroll tax cut. Now, at this point in time, the main issue seems to be the overall budget. The Democrats are wanting to spend around $3 trillion in the HEROES Act that they passed back in May. It was a $3 trillion plan. The Republicans, on the other hand, are wanting to only spend around $1 trillion. So we have a huge gap in there. And in the end, more than likely, the Republicans are probably going to have to move off that $1 trillion figure up to at least $1.5 trillion and perhaps even $2 trillion. This is going to end up being a large package deal where both sides end up exchanging things that they don't want in exchange for things that they do want. For example, in large part, Democrats oppose liability protection. However, more than likely, the Democrats may allow liability protection to be in the next relief package as long as they get something like hazard pay for essential workers, for example. We'll also more than likely see the federal unemployment benefits at a higher number than $200 on a weekly basis. It's not going to be the full $600 that the Democrats want. However, in exchange for that lower number, we may see bigger stimulus payments. It's going to be a give and take situation, and I'm not really sure which side has the most leverage here. With recent poll numbers slipping for Trump, you would think the Republicans and Trump will face the most pressure to put together a strong bill. Republicans simply need to walk away from all this looking like the good guys. But at the same time, they also don't want to compromise their beliefs, so they're sort of put in a tough spot here. In the end, these are the things that we should feel good about. 1. Another round of stimulus payments are coming. And even though they're not going to be monthly recurring stimulus payments, at least we're going to get another round of stimulus payments of at least $1,200, and dependents over the age of 17 will also be receiving $500, which isn't much, but it's better than last time. So if a bill does pass by early August, I would expect the first batch of stimulus payments to begin being directly deposited by the IRS at some point either in late August or early September. Secondly, federal unemployment benefits should be extended, and even though it's not going to be the full $600 per week, it is going to be a little bit lower of a number. I don't expect it to be as low as $200 per week. I expect the Democrats to negotiate that up, perhaps somewhere in the range of $200 and $600, and we may end up at a landing point somewhere in the $300 to $400 on a weekly basis range. Even Democratic House Majority Speaker Steny Hoyer said that it's not going to be $600 or bust as far as the federal unemployment boost goes. In fact, Nancy Pelosi said the main reason for the $600 weekly payments was for simplicity. Now, we obviously have a long way to go to reach full recovery. It's not going to be an overnight process, but once this relief package passes, hopefully it's going to help the American people to get through this pandemic, and then hopefully we can reach the other side and get back to some sort of sense of normalcy. In the end, we just have to hope that both the Democrats and the Republicans will put their differences aside and work together to get this relief package passed for the American people. And at the moment, I do have a lot of confidence that they will be able to work well enough together to get this next relief package passed. Okay, so just a quick update on the first round of stimulus payments. Unfortunately, there are still millions of people who are still waiting for their first stimulus payment, even though a second round of stimulus payments may be going out in a month or so, so it's very disappointing. One thing that I will say though is that more direct deposits were sent out by the IRS this morning, so if you haven't yet checked your bank account, I would encourage you to do so. And in the meantime, just continue checking the payment portal. You will eventually receive a payment date and you will eventually receive your payment. Also, just another friendly reminder, you can most definitely call the IRS. Their number is 1-800-919-9835. Now just know you may have to call back a few different times to get in touch with an IRS agent. Sometimes you're not actually able to get through, so I would recommend to call back a few different times. Also, I would recommend to call a little bit earlier in the day just because generally there seems to be a little bit longer hold times the longer you wait in the day to call them. Also, if you happen to be an expat living abroad, the SSA.gov website says that most beneficiaries living abroad who receive their monthly benefit through a domestic bank should receive their EIP by direct deposit to that same account on or about July 24th. The remaining direct deposit and paper check EIPs should be completed by August 12th and August 14th, respectively, according to the IRS. So obviously that's some very good news for expats living abroad. I know there's a lot of people on Social Security benefits who still haven't received their stimulus payment, but hang in there, you will eventually receive your payment date and you will eventually receive your payment. Okay, so at this point in time, I'm just gonna go ahead and answer some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. And if you have any other comments or questions for me, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I do try to respond to as many comments and questions as I possibly can. And those comments and questions that I'm not able to respond to, I do try to pick some of the more popular ones to answer in the next video in video form. Okay, so without further ado, let me go ahead and jump into the first comment of today's video. And that comment says, I got paid $1,200 for myself, but nothing for my two kids aged 9 and 12. Can you help me out? How can I claim them? All right, thank you so much for that question. I'm so happy that you received your $1,200 stimulus payment. Now, as far as your dependents go, you are definitely supposed to receive an additional $1,000 on top of your $1,200 stimulus payment. That would be $500 for both of your dependents. Now, unfortunately, the IRS admits that they made a huge mistake where they forgot to send thousands of payments for dependents, and all they're saying is right now we have to wait until we file our taxes next year to claim those credits. I wish they had more of a short-term solution for that, because right now is when Americans need the money the most, not 1 year from now when they file their taxes for next year. Okay, so the next question of today's video comes from Colby. Colby says, when is the check supposed to be directly deposited? All right, thank you so much for that question, Colby. And unfortunately, at this point in time, the relief package has not yet passed, so stimulus checks are not yet official, and there are no dates for the next round of stimulus payments. However, stimulus checks are a bipartisan issue, meaning that both the Democrats and the Republicans want another round of stimulus payments, so they should be in the next relief package. So at this point in time, we just have to wait for the next stimulus package to pass. And if it passes sometime in early August, then I would expect the next round of stimulus payments to begin being directly deposited sometime either in late August or early September. All right, so on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you did enjoy the content in this video and you'd like to see more videos like it, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It is completely free to do so, and it's a great support to me. Also, if you would like to receive 2 free stocks from Webull, the second free stock valued all the way up to $1,400, feel free to claim those 2 free stocks by clicking the link in the description box below. And until next time, I'll see you guys, and I hope you have a great day today.